Karl Lutz was the Swiss consul who saved many thousands of Jews.
I think around 62,000. But as Roll Wallenberg saved around 100,000 Jews, he was the one who was remembered.
Unlike Karl Lutz, who's only recently been honoured. This became his headquarters. It was a Jewish-owned glass house, I think a glass showroom, possibly manufactory. And eventually he made this the centre for the Palestine Committee, which had been supposed to be closed down. And people came here to get papers to leave Hungary for places like America, to get passage out of Hungary. They negotiated with the Hungarian government, who, because places like Sweden and Switzerland were neutral, they didn't want to have a bad name after the war. And so they agreed that anybody with papers to leave, who could, say, prove they were American citizens, could leave. One young man, for example, came here and was told to fill in a form which would be sent to Washington to validate his supposed claim. That would then have to be sent back to Switzerland and then back to Budapest, by which time they could all be dead. So Karl Lutz just sort of shrugged his shoulders and said, forget the papers, and he filled in an exit form. I believe that he was eventually sacked from the Swiss government after the war, when they discovered that he'd been giving people papers to leave Budapest without permission. Eventually, at the time of the actual occupation, I think people sheltered here, and at the time of the liberation, some 2,000 people were found crammed in here, in all the corners, the nooks and the crannies.
But at least they had survived.
I believe these are some of the resistance fighters who did not survive. The only name I recognise on this plaque was Arthur Weiss, who was the owner of the glass house.
He too did not survive the war.
And here's a small miniature of the Karl Lutz Memorial, which is in the ghetto area. Karl Lutz also saved so many Jewish lives. This is a representation of the building, the idea being to show how you had 2,000 people crammed into every available space. Sometimes apparently it led to arguments, but the young people were also planning their future. And at the end of the war, there were some, I think it was 2,000 people, were liberated from here, as I said before. But people really had to be crammed in everywhere. And as we said, it was a glass showroom, and still lots of things here are made of glass, including this staircase. The glass was often used in big building projects. Some of it was coloured. And here's a photograph of the actual Karl Lutz Memorial. I take it these are people queuing up to try and get exit papers.
This is one of the documents issued by Karl Lutz. You can see the Swiss flag at the top. And this document did save somebody's life.
This was Karl Lutz himself, who just did away with some of the paperwork. And there is a street named after him in Haifa. Just imagine the thousands of people squeezed in here day after day, not knowing if, of course, the fascists would burst in and pull them out.
And to get out, we have to leave the courtyard this way.
We did have a job at first to find the way in. It was behind this locked door with a tiny little mark saying memory or memorial room. Now quite a drab looking building, but just imagine the stories behind this frontage.